Hello and welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel. Delighted once again to be joined by Ra Hokum. We're here for another big fight breakdown ahead of the huge Riyadh season card at Wembley for Anthony Joshua versus Daniel Dubois on Saturday evening. Ra, thank you so much for joining me. We're here to discuss Willy Hutchinson against Joshua Buatsi. Before we get into things, if you're happy with the content, guys, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. We'll have loads of big fight breakdowns, loads of fight week content coming out. So as I say, subscribe and keep in the loop with everything. Ra, we'll fly straight into things here. Joshua Buatsi, Willy Hutchinson, they're both coming into this fight on the back of two huge victories, probably career best wins for both men. We'll start with Joshua Buatsi. You know, when he come onto the scene a lot similar time to you like to Joe Cordina, Buatsi was expected to be a world champion in a similar time frame. It hasn't happened. Do you think Joshua Buatsi is currently the best light heavyweight in Britain?
Yes, not much hesitation for me to say that, but only because the two guys with the most credible claims to rival him for that position seem to have one foot out of the door. That is Callum Smith and Anthony Yarde. They've both disappeared essentially after getting in the ring with Artur Beterbiev. No shame in that. Beterbiev makes a lot of people disappear. But yeah, it's not clear whether either of them two are going to fight anytime soon or at all. So just by default, I think because of the level of opponents that Buatsi has defeated, I think he's got the strongest claim to say he's the best. But again, when you're talking about who's the best, it usually comes down to opinion. That's not the same as who should be ranked the highest based on who you've beaten recently. So I guess that's why we've got this fight on Saturday, because arguably Willy should be ranked as high as him off the back of his last win. So yeah, but in terms of just as an opinion, I do think Buatsi is the best light heavyweight in the country at the moment.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I don't think it's the most stacked division in terms of domestic dust-ups that we could have. You know, like you say, two of the best of Callum Smith would probably have been the best in my opinion pre-Beterbiev fight and even post, but I doubt we'll be seeing him back in the ring again. You know, Buatsi, Callum Smith was a fight I'd have liked to have seen, but it's a fight that definitely I would be shocked if we did see. So I think that's more than fair. And like you say, Willy Hutchinson, he'll be climbing the rankings after his last victory over Craig Richards. And I'm sure if he beats Joshua Buatsi, he'll fly up the rankings again. On the back of Willy Hutchinson's last victory, again, Willy Hutchinson is a big underdog here with the bookies, 9-4, whereas Joshua Buatsi is 4-11. This is no sort of shock to Willy Hutchinson. I backed him in his last fight, 4-1. The bookies appear to give him the same chance again, and you know his last outing, he comfortably won in my opinion. Do you think the bookies and well, pretty much everyone I've seen on socials, to be fair, the general public are underestimating Willy Hutchinson, or do you believe that Buatsi is that clear of a favourite?
Yes, somewhat. Because you could argue that Willy beat Spider Richards more handily than Buatsi did. As you know, with the bookies, these things are often it comes down to reputation. I think Joshua, because of the the Olympic pedigree and because he was simply talked about for so long as being a future star, I guess that's why. There's also an element of, by Willy's own admission, if you watch the face-off, he hasn't fought as many good opponents as Buatsi. So when you've just got the one good win, you can often presume maybe it was just a fluke, a good night for you, good style matchup, or maybe that particular opponent was on the slide when you caught him. So I think that's reasonable. I think Buatsi should be the favourite, but not as big a favourite as the bookies have him. So because I mean, some of his recent performances, he's not looked like a killer himself, not the killer we thought he would be based on his earlier performances. So yeah, there's a little bit of an underestimation of Willy, but I guess all things considered, it's not unreasonable.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with yourself. I think Buatsi should be the favourite, but I think the way they're in almost inciting there's that big of a gap. I think it may be quite a bit closer on fight night. I think you're only as good as your last fight, and based off that, Willie Hutchinson's coming into this looking the best he's ever looked,
Mhm.
best one of his career. And like you say, Buatsi, I don't want to say cruising, but maybe this is sort of a bit of a step up. You know, they clearly don't like each other. We've seen the face-offs. We've seen them sat down talking. There's a lot of animosity, and it seems quite tense going into this. So maybe this is sort of the grudge match, the hatred that Joshua Buatsi needs to get a statement victory. You know, whether it's a shutout points win or a stoppage, and prove the bookies right. But I just think, like you say, maybe a slight odds-on favourite, but not necessarily Buatsi's schooling for a casual looking at the odds. You'd come into this and think Buatsi's just going to punch his head in for 12 rounds. So I think it's definitely fair what you said there. The next bit is a tough one, especially if Willie Hutchinson wins on Saturday night. Can you see the winner of this going on to fight for a world title? Not necessarily next, with the light heavyweight title landscape, but can you see either man fighting for a world title dependent on who wins?
Yeah, well, they're sort of half fighting for a world title on Saturday, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
This inane WBO
Yeah.
interim. I mean, what again? What is the purpose of interim titles when
Exactly.
the actual champions are actually active? I mean, there's no need for them other than when a champion's long term ill or injured or whatever. But anyway, no, I think if certainly if Willie wins, I think Frank Warren will use his influence with the WBO to get either Bivol or Better Beef stripped if they don't defend against him next, which they probably won't because there'll be bigger fights or better fights for them. Um, so I think the winner, if it's Willie Hutchinson, almost certainly will be elevated to the full champ before long. If it's Buatsi, that's a different matter. I guess we'll have to see how the politics plays out, whether Turk Yellow Sheep wants to take him under his wing or not. But either way, I do think the winner will most likely be elevated to full champ not long after, or get a crack at the undisputed champ, whoever that might be. Well, most likely if it's Bivol, if it's Better Be, I think he's more likely to either retire or maybe have a crack at cruiserweight.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if it's Bivol, for sure. I mean, where he's not going to go up to cruiserweight, is he? So I think there's a good chance that next year the winner will be fighting for the full title.
I think, like you say, it's always a good question to ask because there's so much politics. You know, you've got David Morrell, who's a WBA regular champion. You have to technically, even though I hate it, you have to class as a world champion. I think it's still stupid that you have two versions of one belt, but that's another video for another day because that can go on forever. I think, like you say, again, I wanted to hear your opinion because I think, like you say, it does depend on who wins that Bivol Beterbiev, whether they get a crack. Because if Bivol wins, is there better opponents out there for Bivol to face? Absolutely. Could we see an IBF situation at heavyweight with WBO where they're forced to vacate to allow the interim to fight for it? It's a difficult one. Again, does it possibly depend on who wins? If Willie Hutchinson wins, like you say, I think Uncle Frank's going to be on the phone straight away demanding that fight. Whereas Joshua Buatsi, if he wins, somehow can't see the same pull being used as Uncle Frank, if I'm quite honest. So yeah, I think it's always a tough question to ask and always a tough question to answer. There's a lot of sort of areas and hurdles to get over, but I do believe I agree that if Willie Hutchinson wins on Saturday night, we will see him fighting for the WBO title at some stage. Predictions, always a tough part of the call. I think we've had a slight hint from yourself, Ra, where you'll be looking to go with your prediction in this fight. Who wins on Saturday and how?
You know what? I think it's going to be a very competitive fight. I think it's close to 50-50. I don't think Buatsi, although he's got the better technical pedigree with, his Olympic background, and just, visually, if you watch the way that they fight, although to be fair to Willy, he was he a European youth champ or Olympic youth champion, something like that. But Willy's got that style, that loose-limbed, highly mobile style. He's absolutely brimming with confidence, and I like that he's sort of relishing, needling his opponent. I think there's far too much friendliness these days between fighters. So yeah, I can see Buatsi probably having some difficulties pinning him down. Don't think Willy's got any sort of world level punching power to put a dent in Buatsi. Style wise, he'll provide some difficulties at least early on. Buatsi is technically a lot better than we realise. I think he's got a much better ring IQ. He did seem to almost be stuck between styles when he got with Virgil Hunter. He used to be a bit more of a wrecking machine early in his career. I think we might see a lot of that from him, that he might be looking to dispense with some of the defensive responsibility, especially if he eats a few early on and realizes he isn't getting particularly hurt. He might think, all right, well, forget about boxing sensibly. Let me duke it out with this guy and punish him. But I do see Willy having a lot of success as well. I don't think it will go early or inside the distance. I think the most likely outcome, I think, is down the stretch. Buatsi starts to get to him and pick up the rounds. I think it'll be fairly close. Maybe a split or majority decision for Buatsi. And I could see Willy Hutchinson going away saying he was robbed. As usual, when fighters say that, they usually aren't, but I could see that. Yeah, so I'm thinking most likely a Buatsi points victory, or possibly get to him late and stop him late. I know Willy did get knocked out by Lennox Clark. Not seen him really nailed by a heavy hitter since then, so we can't assess whether that was just a fluke because of the weight making or if he can be hurt. So yeah, my prediction is Buatsi points win or possibly late stoppage.
Yeah, I think it's more than fair. I think you have to filter in, obviously, Willy Hutchinson getting chinned by Lennox Clark, but since then he's improved massively. I think he shocked a lot of people against Spider. So when you look at this, I think Hutchinson is awkward. He's going to try and make it rough with Buatsi and try and stop Buatsi boxing. So I think a lot of this depends on, the build-up we've seen. Is it all just build-up, or is it going to spill into the ring? Because if it spills into the ring, it's going to be messy and it's anyone's fight. I think I'm going to go for Joshua Buatsi on a razor close points decision. Possibly one where Buatsi maybe wins more rounds than given, and then Willy Hutchinson, as you say, claims he's been robbed. I can see that happening with either man. I think, like you say, I don't think Buatsi is going to look and to go for the kill. I think he's going to look to box this fight. So I can't see either man getting a stoppage, to be honest. I'll eat my words if they do. I just don't see it. I do see it being messy at times, a lot of fighting on the inside. And I just think Joshua Buatsi will just be that pedigree will just be slightly too much for Willy Hutchinson. But who knows? It could, as I say, it could be a completely messy fight. They could come out and they could both come swinging for the heavens. They clearly don't like each other. Let's hope they do on fight night. Let us know down in the comments below, guys. Do you agree with Ra that Joshua Buatsi could get the stoppage? Do you agree with myself that you think neither man will get the stoppage? do you believe Willy Hutchinson is going to cruise through this fight? Please let us know down below in the comments. Like, comment, subscribe, tune into all our fight week content. And once again, Ra, thank you for joining me today.